Welcome to Wisdom-Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2,823 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom-Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom-Trek is The Waw of Freedom, Speaking Truth to Kings. In our previous episode, we navigated the fifth stanza of Psalm 119, known as the He section. There, we prayed an urgent navigational prayer. We asked the Creator to turn our eyes away from the worthless, glittering idols of the culture and to bend our affections toward His eternal decrees. We realized that, without divine intervention, our natural tendency is to wander off the path, lured by selfish gain and the deceptive promises of the surrounding world. But when Yahweh actively guides our steps, we find our true happiness within the safe boundaries of His cosmic order. Today, we take our next confident stride along this majestic alphabetical trail. We are entering the sixth stanza of Psalm 119, which corresponds to the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Waw or Vav. We will be immersing ourselves in verses 41 through 48 in the New Living Translation. In Biblical Hebrew, the letter Waw functions primarily as a conjunction. It is the word and. It is a hook or a peg that connects one thought to another. In fact, in the original Hebrew text, every single verse in this specific stanza begins with the word and. This stanza serves as a magnificent bridge. It takes the internal, private devotion we built in the previous stanzas and hooks it directly to external, public boldness. We are moving from the quiet prayer closet out into the hostile public square. We are going to learn how a heart anchored in the unfailing love of God can stand fearlessly before the mocking kings of this world. So, let us secure our gear and step onto the trail. Psalm 119, verses 41 and 42. Lord, give me your unfailing love, the salvation that you promised me. Then I can answer those who taunt me, for I trust in your word. The stanza opens with a desperate yet highly confident plea for tangible rescue. Lord, give me your unfailing love, the salvation that you promised me. Here we see our old familiar friend, the Hebrew word hesed. This is God's loyal, stubborn, covenant-keeping love. But notice that the psalmist links this unfailing love directly to salvation. He is not just asking for a warm internal feeling of affection. He is asking for a visible, concrete deliverance. He needs God to physically intervene in his life and rescue him from a very real, very present danger. He is holding God to his own promises, reminding the Creator of the covenant they share. And why does he need this visible salvation so urgently? Then I can answer those who taunt me, for I trust in your word. In the ancient Near Eastern culture, honor and shame were the absolute driving forces of society. To be taunted or mocked was not just an issue of hurt feelings, it was an act of public, spiritual warfare. We must view this through the lens of the divine council worldview. The people who are taunting the psalmist are not just schoolyard bullies. They are representatives of the surrounding pagan nations, driven by the rebel spiritual principalities of the unseen world. These mockers look at the psalmist's suffering and they sneer. They say, "Where is your God? You follow his invisible laws. You refuse to worship our idols. And yet, look at you. You are suffering. Your God is weak, and your trust is completely foolish." The psalmist knows that he cannot win this argument with clever human philosophy. The only way to silence the taunts of the rebel gods and their human proxies is for Yahweh to visibly show up. When God's hesed arrives in the form of tangible salvation, it becomes the ultimate apologetic. It provides the definitive answer to the mockers. The psalmist can point to his deliverance and say, "Look, my God is alive. He keeps his word, and my trust was perfectly placed." Psalm 119, verses 43 and 44. Do not snatch your word of truth from me, for your regulations are my only hope. I will keep on obeying your instructions forever and ever. While he waits for this visible vindication, the psalmist voices his deepest, most profound fear. Do not snatch your word of truth from me, for your regulations are my only hope. What does it mean for God to snatch his word of truth away? In the biblical framework, this is the terrifying concept of divine silence. If you remember the history of Israel, there were seasons of intense rebellion where God withdrew his prophetic voice. The heavens became like brass. A famine of hearing the words of the Lord swept through the land. To be stripped of God's truth is the ultimate, catastrophic judgment. The psalmist is essentially pleading, Lord, no matter how intense the mocking gets, and no matter how long I have to wait for my salvation, please do not let me lose my grip on your reality. Do not let the truth slip from my mouth. If I lose your regulations, I lose everything, because they are my only hope. In a chaotic, contested world, the Torah is not a burden. It is a life raft. When the storms of cultural opposition rage, the instructions of the Creator are the only things that keep us from drowning in the abyss. Because he recognizes this profound reality, he makes a sweeping, eternal commitment. I will keep on obeying your instructions forever and ever. This is not a temporary weekend commitment. This is a cosmic allegiance. The psalmist is declaring that his loyalty to Yahweh extends beyond his current crisis, beyond his earthly lifespan, and straight into eternity. He is locking his will onto the unshakable foundation of the divine architect. Psalm 119, verses 45 and 46. I will walk in freedom, for I have devoted myself to your commandments. I will speak to kings about your laws, and I will not be ashamed. These two verses contain one of the most brilliant, mind-bending paradoxes in the entire Bible. The psalmist boldly declares, I will walk in freedom, for I have devoted myself to your commandments. In our modern Western culture, we have completely redefined the concept of freedom. We tend to think that true freedom means absolute autonomy, the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want, without any external rules or restrictions. But the ancient biblical mind knew that autonomy from the Creator is a deceptive, deadly trap. If a train decides to free itself from the tracks, it does not find liberation. It finds destruction. The Hebrew word translated as freedom here is rachabah, which literally means a wide, broad, or open place. We saw this exact concept back in Psalm 118. True freedom is not the absence of boundaries. It is operating exactly as you were designed to operate, within the safe, wide open spaces of God's grace. The psalmist experiences expansive, breathing room in his soul, precisely because he has devoted himself to God's commandments. When you align your life with the grain of the universe, you are no longer crashing into the destructive, chaotic consequences of sin. You are truly, wonderfully free. And this internal freedom produces massive, external courage. I will speak to kings about your laws, and I will not be ashamed. Do not miss the staggering audacity of this statement. In the ancient Near East, kings were not just politicians. They were the supreme, absolute rulers of their domains. More importantly, in the pagan worldview, kings were viewed as the literal sons of the gods. They were the earthly pontiffs, the avatars of the rebel spiritual principalities. To stand before a foreign king was to stand before the concentrated power of the kingdom of darkness. Yet, the psalmist says he will walk right into the throne room, look the king in the eye, and speak about the laws of Yahweh. He will declare the supreme, cosmic authority of the God of Israel over the pagan pantheons, and he will do it without a shred of shame or fear. This is the exact same courage we see later in the Bible, when Daniel stands before Nebuchadnezzar, or when the Apostle Paul stands before King Agrippa. When you are walking in the wide open freedom of God's truth, the intimidating thrones of human kings suddenly look very small. You realize that you serve the King of Kings, and therefore you have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Psalm 119, verses 47 and 48. How I delight in your commands. How I love them. I honor and love your commands. I meditate on your decrees. The Waw stanza concludes with an absolute explosion of affection. The psalmist shifts from bold, public defiance to intimate, passionate devotion. How I delight in your commands. How I love them. He repeats the word love twice in these two verses. This is not cold academic theology. This is a blazing, fiery romance with the Word of God. He does not just tolerate the rules. He cherishes them. He recognizes that every single law, every single decree, is a love letter from the Creator, designed to protect his imagers from the devastating effects of the cosmic rebellion. Then, he makes a striking physical gesture. I honor and love your commands. The literal Hebrew translation of I honor is fascinating. It says, I will lift up my palms, or I will lift up my hands to your commandments. In the ancient world, lifting up the hands was the universal posture of worship, prayer, and absolute surrender. You lifted your hands toward the sanctuary, or toward the heavens, to receive a blessing from the deity. Here, the psalmist is lifting his hands in adoration directly to the Word of God. He reveres the Scriptures so deeply that his physical body responds in worship. He eagerly opens his empty hands, ready to receive whatever instruction, correction, or guidance the Lord wishes to pour into them. He finishes the stanza by grounding this intense emotional high with disciplined practice. I meditate on your decrees. He takes the commands that he loves, the truth that gives him freedom, and he chews on it constantly. He turns it over and over in his mind, allowing it to penetrate the deepest, most hidden layers of his consciousness, ensuring that he will be ready the next time the mockers taunt him or the kings demand an answer. Psalm 119, verses 41 through 48, provides us with a magnificent blueprint for living as a bold, joyful witness in a hostile world. It teaches us that true courage does not come from human self-confidence. It comes from hooking our lives to the unfailing love of God. When we trust in His salvation, we are granted the profound freedom of walking in His wide open spaces, and that freedom destroys the power of shame. As you walk your trek today, remember that you are an imager of the Most High God. Do not let the taunts of the culture silence your testimony. Cling fiercely to the word of truth. Devote yourself to the cosmic order of the Creator and discover the expansive breathing room of true spiritual freedom. May you develop such a blazing love for God's instructions that you are willing to lift your hands in worship and open your mouth in boldness, even if you are standing before the kings of this earth. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and, most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity. Leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.